Okay. All right. Sorry about that. So my case study is to talk about the evolution of our IT/OT security strategy at Rockwell Automation. So I'm going to start by just kind of making sure you know who Rockwell Automation is. Then I'll talk about what we did first. I became CISO in 2016, and that's when we built our first IT and OT security strategies. Went along fine until 2017 and 2018 when the cyber threat environment changed. And we thought that it was time that we needed to revise our strategy. So in 2018, we created what we're calling our Connected Enterprise Security Strategy. So I'll talk about that and then summary. So just in case you don't know who Rockwell Automation is, we integrate control and information. So we used to be thought of as a hardware company. We made PLCs and other industrial automation equipment. Now we also are seen as an information company, a software company. So that's changed our security posture a lot. So we did $6.7 billion in sales last year, 23,000 employees in 80 plus countries. So you just kind of get an idea of the scope of the company. In addition, our products are used in just about every critical infrastructure sector there is. And so we take that very seriously. We don't just look at, we need to secure Rockwell. We look at where our products go, and it is our responsibility to make sure that we're also securing our products and our customers. So I became CISO in 2016, and I looked at where are we now? And what we had an extended security team. So our first CISO had created a security liaison program. We had liaisons with all of the businesses and functions in the company. We had a partnership with IT. And some foundational programs had been built. So we have a secure development environment, which we started years ago to secure our source code, not only from theft, but also from tampering, from inside and from outside. We had an insider risk program. That's what I was actually hired to build in 2013. So we had an industry-leading insider risk program and a third-party risk program, which again was pretty leading edge back at that point. So that's what I inherited. But I came in, and I'm not an ad hoc kind of person. I like a plan. So I thought, okay, we need a plan. We need to take a structured approach at what we need to do, because securing all of this is a big undertaking. How are we going to do it? So I decided that we would use the Nist cybersecurity framework. And in case you're not familiar with that, it was created by Nist, which is part of the Department of Commerce. It's a government agency, but Nist didn't create it. What they did was they brought in security practitioners from around the country, hundreds of them. Doug Wiley, who's here today, was our Rockwell Automation representative on the Nist Cybersecurity Framework Committee, if you want to call it that. And what these practitioners did was they decided we need to create a roadmap of everything that should be considered in a security program. And so to me, as a brand new CISO, perfect place to start. They already did all that work. I'm just going to take what they did and we'll use that as our roadmap. So what I did was I pulled in those liaisons from across the company that we already had established, and we had a cross-functional team that used that roadmap to look at 96 different security issues that are in the roadmap, and looked at each one and said, where do we need to be as a company? Because that's the great thing about the Nist CSF. Every company's different. So you use this tool to figure out for all 96 items, where do we need to be and where are we now? So we came out of that with lots of gaps, just like anyone else would. Now we had to figure out, okay, so where are we going to start? So we took the output of that and we came up with what we called our Information Security Strategic Framework. And that framework, it kind of boiled all of the top priority items that we came up with into these kind of buckets that people could understand. So governance, identification and protection of critical assets, the human element, third-party relationships, and cyber defense. And behind all of those, we had very detailed tasks that we needed to accomplish. So that worked really well. And I thought, now I have to tackle manufacturing. And I know nothing about manufacturing, but I wonder if it would work. So if you look at the Nist CSF, it's divided into identify, protect, detect, respond, recover. And so we looked at that and said, well, identify asset management. Well, that's important in an OT environment. Governance, risk assessment, everything seems to apply. Protect, access control, data security, maintenance, protective technology. Okay, seems applicable. Same for detect, respond, and recover. We looked at this and thought, why can't we use this same roadmap to address OT security? So that's what we did. But what we did differently was we were not OT security experts. So we knew how to do it, how the technique for using this, but we were not the OT security experts. So what we did was we had another big workshop and we brought in our plant managers from some of the biggest plants, and we had them bring their security engineers, their people in their plants that were responsible for security. Because when I came into Rockwell Automation as CISO, we were doing security in the plants. We were segmenting our networks. That was the big thing. We're segmenting the networks. We're putting a firewall in and we're going to segregate the traffic from the internet and from the business. Well, when we came out of this and we used this roadmap to look at the whole big picture, we said, putting those firewalls in and segmenting those networks is expensive. And do we really need to do that to every plant in the company? Or should we be taking the most critical plants first and using this whole roadmap to make sure that they are secure and then work our way down to the other plants? So that's what we did. And this is what we came up with. It looks very much like the Information Security Strategic Framework. Asset identification. The interesting thing about this is, if you think back, we did this in 2016. WannaCry and NotPetya didn't hit until 2017. So because we used this and because we started looking at the big picture, we started working on our asset identification and our asset inventory a year before NotPetya hit. So we were ahead of the game. Asset protection, security governance, human element. Human element was a big one because we looked at that. Some of these are almost like low-hanging fruit. You look at the human element and we realized we put out security awareness training every year for our employees. And the plant employees get different training than all of the other employees because a lot of them don't even have email accounts. They don't need the same kind of training that the office workers need. But when we looked at this, we thought, but really we ought to think about ongoing security awareness training for our plant personnel because they do have sticky notes with passwords on the screens. They do have shared accounts that they're using. They don't log off. They do have vendors come in and stick USB drives into our equipment. So what we started doing was we thought, well, here's one that we can tackle kind of easily. Let's just start coming up with monthly security awareness training that's applicable to them and put out these newsletters that can be in the cafeteria and we can push out through their managers to their staff. So that was one area where this helped us to start tackling some security issues cheaply and quickly. And then third party, we had our third party program, which was looking at IT kinds of third parties. Now we just realized we needed to extend that to manufacturing. So Yes, should I take questions now, Sid? I couldn't really hear that. I have a cold in my ears. Oh, Rockwell plants. Yes, at this point, my responsibility was Rockwell. So yes, Rockwell plants. Okay, thanks. So everything was going along fine until 2018, and now suddenly the cyber threat landscape changed. And if you're in this room, I assume I don't need to tell you about WannaCry and NotPetya. Suddenly, you didn't have to think about, hey, am I a potential target? Everybody is a potential target just by being connected to the internet. We had Triton malware that targeted safety systems. So now we knew that, yes, our products are being targeted. Even though it wasn't ours that were targeted by Triton, our kinds of products are being targeted. The Director of National Intelligence talked about just this summer, the growing threat of a devastating cyber attack against critical infrastructure. It hasn't happened yet, but when the DNI comes out and says that, you kind of have to pay attention. Even more importantly, to a company like us, NotPetya was propagated when Russia compromised a private sector company in the Ukraine that created tax software. They pushed out like TurboTax. All the companies in the Ukraine that had to file federal income taxes used ME-DOC. So Russia compromised the mechanism that was used to push out new versions of ME-DOC, and that's how they propagated NotPetya. We took that very seriously because, as I said in the beginning, we are not only a hardware company, but we're a software company. We push out software updates. We put them out there for our customers. We had this secure development environment for years where we had been protecting our source code, but now we had to think about that next layer out. What about that infrastructure that has our software updates? And that happened twice since then with CC Cleaner, a free utility that you can use to keep your PC running more efficiently, and with a Linux distribution that was compromised last summer. So this is now happening, and any software company has to take that seriously. And then just in 2018, a year and a half after NotPetya hit, a WannaCry variant disrupted a large telecommunications company. So in response, we decided that we can't just worry about Rockwell. We have security all over our company. We have a chief product security officer and a product security office that was created in 2016. We have a security team that works with our customers. We have security built into our remote connected services for our customers. We have security in our development teams, but we had to pull it all together. Because of the kinds of threats that we're now seeing, we couldn't just worry about Rockwell and have someone else worry about the other pieces. We had to work together as one team. So that's what we did. We built a holistic security strategy. It was quite an undertaking. We used different security standards to guide the different pieces. So we used the Nist cybersecurity framework, as I talked about, internally. For our products, we use IEC 62443. And for our customers, our services and solutions, we use ISO 27001 and 62443. So we all worked together, all these security people. Of course, we had a list a mile long of all the things that we needed to work on. Now we had to prioritize because there's no way we can take a list a mile long to our leadership. So we used a risk management approach. And at first, everybody used that heat map and all of our dots were up in the red. Of course, we're security people. We always see the worst. But once we quantified it and said, okay, and with all of the controls we have in place, what's really the probability that that thing is going to happen? And if it does, what's really going to be the impact? Is it going to be all of our customers, one customer, all of our plants, one plant, one employee? And so when we did that, it really whittled down our list. And it was very easy for us to identify these are the things we need to focus on. We took them to leadership. How could they say no? We had all of the security leaders from across the entire company that agreed on the list. And so now we're in deployment and execution mode. Oops. So in summary, we believe a holistic strategy is necessary for IT and OT. You have to think bigger than just IT and OT. A standards and risk-based approach is what we recommend, and you need to build this across the entire company. Thank you.